Alright, if you want to step up your content planning game so that you actually have time to do the thing, which is creating awesome content, then I have the right thing for you. Actually, I have 3 things for you. In this video, I want to go through 3 levels of content planning that I made, so it doesn't matter if you're new, if you have some experience, or if you already are seasoned in handling and planning content, there will be something here for you. And stick around because you can start using all of this right now. But first of all, let's talk about the tool that I'm going to use, and that's going to be Notion. I'm trying to keep all my content planning in one centralized place that has enough flexibility for if my process evolves, and for that, I found that Notion is the best. It could be overwhelming at times, but with templates like the one I'm going to show you, it's a breeze. And now on to how we're going to move forward. I'm dividing this video in 3 sections. First of all, the beginner level, for people that are just starting and planning one type of content for one type of social media platform. Then we'll move on to the intermediate part, which is for people that are a bit more experienced and handling multiple types of posts. Think of long-form video, short-form video, and pictures in multiple social media platforms. And last but not least, we're going to go for advanced, which will be for people handling multiple types of posts and social media platforms, but that also want to optimize their time and have more control over what they produce. Each of the levels, beginner, intermediate, and advanced, will be divided in 2 sections. First of all, the visualization, which is how do you see the content planner, pretty straightforward, and second, the properties. Because in order to have a comprehensive content planner that adapts to your process, you have to have certain pieces of information in place. But don't get too caught up in the details just yet, because we're going to go through it in a very simple way. And you can follow along the video and create your own template if you want, but keep in mind that my main focus here is to use it as a guide when using the templates that I have made available. They are all linked in the description, so go ahead and download them, and after that you can make the tweaks and changes that you need so that this framework becomes specifically yours. And now, without further ado, let's get started with level number 1, beginners. Let's start with the visualization. When making this template, I wanted to have something very simple and super straightforward so that it removes the friction in this very important moment of our content creation journey, the beginning. So if you're a beginner, you just need a place for all of your ideas to be captured and then to see how they progress over time. And that is why the visualization of choice is Kanban board, which is just a fancy way of saying status board, where each status is represented in one column. The first column is where all your new ideas go, good, mid, and maybe not so good, without exception. The second one is for ideas that are in progress, so the ones that you are currently working on. And last but not least, the last column is for finished ideas. You can drag content ideas around from one column to another, and with this, the main goal is to have a general understanding of where your ideas are, and as I said, where they're going. Now, in this part specifically, we're seeing information here in the board view, and that is the name of the idea, the date in which you want to publish it, and the ID. And this is a nice segue to go and talk over the properties. So let's head over to the properties section in the beginner level content calendar. And we do this by going to the bottom of the page and clicking the link to the database that holds all the information that's being visualized in that board view. Once we do that, we'll be able to see each of the content ideas and all of their properties in different columns. So let's talk about these properties in particular so that we know what is it that we're talking about. So first of all, we have the ID. The ID is a column that automatically gets filled with a unique number, and the goal with this one is just to identify content regardless of the name, because the name can change over time, but the ID will stay the same. The second one is the name. Super straightforward, I don't have to explain much, and this is up to you completely. The next one is the description, and it's meant for social media, so that you can start thinking about optimizing your keywords and what you're gonna say out there before you post. Up next, we have the status, which is the category that's used for columns in the board view. For the beginner's planner, I have 3 categories: not started, in progress, and done. And after that, we have the publish date, which is the moment in which you want this content to be out there. And last but not least, we have the hashtags, because sometimes you just want your post to have some specific hashtags or tags for other accounts. Now you can see that here are some properties that are not necessarily visible in the board view, and this is on purpose, to explain why I need to go back to the board view. And over there in the visualization, we see that, for example, we don't see the hashtag. Again, the main goal of this visualization is to capture ideas and to move them through the process as easy as possible. So I didn't want to clutter the view with more information. If you do want to see more context of, let's say, one of the ideas here, you can click it, and then you will see that it will expand and it will show you all the details of that specific idea, such as the description, the hashtags, and the rest of the properties. Now let's take it up a notch and move on to the intermediate level of the content planner. Right off the bat, we see that the content planner looks a little bit beefier with more columns and more color. As I mentioned, this specific level of the content planner is for people that are managing multiple types of posts. So let's say short form videos, long form videos, stories, and pictures. and also multiple social media platforms. Because, of course, if you prepare a short form video, for example, you can then post this to Instagram, to TikTok, and to YouTube. So this is also a way in which we can find some optimization, because you can make just one video and already have 3 posts ready. But what has changed compared to the beginner level content planner? Well, first of all, let's talk about the 3 new columns that you can see in the middle. These are a new form of the in progress column that we saw before. Having this extra level of granularity and visibility helps you with batching work. For example, if you want to do all of your shooting in one day and you want to know specifically where in the process this content is, this will help you to do that. Now, moving over to the properties, we have 2 new ones that are now available in the board view. First, we have the type of post, where you can have story, post, short form, or long form. This property is a single selection property, which means that any given content can only be of one type. For example, you can have something that's both a post and a story at the same time. That makes sense. Those will be 2 different pieces of content in this context. And the second one is the platform where this content will be posted to. For example, Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. This is a multi-select property, so you can have more than one platform selected, and it's up to you to add any other platform you're posting to. So maybe you're doing LinkedIn or some weird stuff like that. And here's another reminder that if you want to have access to this template, as well as the beginners one and the advanced one, all the links are in the description. And I'm offering these templates both in the Notion template store, where they have a price, and also on my personal website, where you will find them completely for free. All the links are in the description. Now on to the advanced content planner. And let's start, of course, with the visualization, which you can see here. It has more information than the one we saw in the intermediate version, so let's talk about the new additions. There are 2 extra columns, but not in the in progress part, but at the very end of the process. One of them is schedule and the other one is rejected. Let's go into the details. Schedule is a column that I added to my own personal content planner when I realized that it doesn't really end when a piece of content is done. Done pretty much means that a piece of content has been finished. Let's say you're editing photos or you're editing a video. You finish that edit, you mark that content as done, it's complete, but it's not published yet. And for that, given that social media platforms nowadays offer the possibility to schedule content, once you finish working on something and you schedule it there, you can update your status in Notion accordingly. It's finished, scheduled, but not yet published. We'll talk about the publishing part later, because it's not a status, but it is another property. And the last column here is rejected, because things may happen throughout the process that may cause some content to fall through. And for that reason, it is good to mark ideas as rejected so that you don't keep decluttering the productive part of the visualization here. But on the other hand, it's also to still keep them, because you may come back to them because they can become yet another content. Also, if you have been paying attention to what's going on here, you will see that the board view is not the only visualization that you can see in the content planner now. We also have now a calendar view where you can see very quickly what's going on and when ideas are going to be posted, scheduled, and what's happening with them in the future. This view is super useful to me because sometimes you don't necessarily only want to know the progress, but you want to have an idea of your deadlines. And this is exactly where this calendar view excels. The information that we see here in the calendar view includes the name, the type of post it is, which platform is going to be posted to, and which state of the process they are. And now let's have a look at the properties. Here the properties are a little bit more complicated. So let's start with the first one right here, and that is files and media. Files and media is great for certain types of posts, especially when you want to have everything centralized, which is actually my idea with Notion, as I mentioned, and it will be the place with the majority of the information related to the post will live. So I use files and media to put the pictures that I'm going to post over to Instagram, for example, or put the thumbnails that will go to YouTube, or any other files that may be important for any type of post. And keep in mind that there are certain limitations of the file size with the free version of Notion, but for the things that I just mentioned, there shouldn't be any problem. At the moment, I'm using the free version of Notion without any issue. Now let's go into the interesting ones. First of all, let's talk about the title length. This property is not really for you if you're not publishing to YouTube, but if you are, you really want to be careful with your title length, because we want to keep it at about 50 to 52 characters to optimize for it being visible in different platforms when people are using YouTube. To make this happen, I created this formula that pretty much checks how long your title is and gives you a bar detailing how close you are to that 52 character limit. If you are getting too close or are over it already, then what you need to do is go back to the name and change it a little bit, and this property will change accordingly as well. And last but not least, we have the published property. To explain this, we need to understand first that something being scheduled doesn't necessarily mean it's published yet. And sometimes when analyzing your data, you want to filter by what has already been published and not necessarily only scheduled in the future. So what this formula does is analyzes the date in which certain content is going to be published, and it also checks if the status is scheduled. And if the date has already passed and it was marked already as scheduled, then this property will automatically change to be marked as just publish. That way, with this extra customized column, we can differentiate content that actually has been released to the ones that are just scheduled but not necessarily out there just yet. Now let's move on to something that's very specific to this template and that the beginner and intermediate versions don't have. And that is the page templates. You can imagine that every time you do certain types of posts, you need to select a few properties, and those properties will always be the same. For example, when you're creating a short form video, you will always know that that content will be posted on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And when you're doing some long form videos, that will always go to YouTube and never to Instagram, for example. And you really don't want to be wasting time making those selections every single time you're creating a new post. And this is where the page templates come into play, because I've created one page template for each type of piece of content that you can have, with some predefined properties, so you don't have to do this repetitive work. These templates depend, of course, on which social media you're actually using and which type of posts you're actually producing, but they can be customized to fit your needs. So feel free to change them, add new, remove some, and make this process yours. Again, if you want to create your own templates using this video, feel free to do that. But if you directly want to get these templates, you can either go to the Notion store or my website, where you can find them for free. All the links are in the description. And now that you have removed the content planning friction from your life, you also want to start thinking about some other things that are preventing you from creating content. One of them being overthinking. If you're anything like me and you overthink before putting anything out there, then have a look at the video right here, in which I go through 3 steps to stop overthinking and to start creating right away. Thanks a lot for checking the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.